King's the King Day, we're reflecting on Dr. King's message on how we can apply it in our everyday lives.
Licensed clinical social worker, therapist, author, and Jet Magazine contributor Jinnie Cristerna is back with us to help us embrace our differences and learn to be more productive in spite of or maybe because of our differences. Good morning. Always good to see you.
It's always good to be here. Super excited.
Yeah, I love this topic because when we brought it up in the meeting, I'm like, this is something that comes up often. And I was like, I never want to be tolerated. So let's talk about tolerance.
Yes.
And it sounds okay on the surface, but you say we should be shooting for acceptance.
Right. So my belief is that if Dr. King were here, he would say, okay, let's move past tolerance. Let's move towards acceptance. So your question of let's talk about tolerance, or your statement let's talk about tolerance, is amazing, because when we tolerate something, the first thing that comes to mind is what?
Putting up with it.
Right, dealing with it.
We put up with the thing that we really don't like. So it's not like we're trying to become okay with it. We're just going 5 more minutes, 3 more minutes,
right?
And then it goes away. And then we get back into our space of being comfortable, which we don't really want to do, because who wants to be tolerated? Who wants to be put up with?
Nobody.
I imagine that's tough, though, because I imagine a lot of people, they have such different beliefs of things that they're like, all right, tolerance is maybe as far as I can go. I can just shut up for 5 minutes and just deal with what's going on. But how do you move from, looking inward from that tolerance to a more place of acceptance?
Sure. Excellent question. So this is what we do when we want to accept someone or accept a situation. We want to allow it to be what it is. It's not so much you have to change who you are as much as look inside. So we do want to be inward facing when it comes to learning to accept someone, because we want to look inside and say, all right, well, what part of me does that resonate with? So whenever you dislike something, there's a part of you that is that thing. And that's what people don't realize. So when I say I dislike people who are late, well, where does that come from with you? Like, what does that mean to you to be
tardy
late?
person.
Exactly, right. So we start to look inward. And we start to realize, okay, well, we're not very different. This is just a part of me I really don't like myself.
But you know what? Isn't that hard, though, for people who have certain long-held beliefs about somebody based on race, sexual preference, because sometimes that gets into to religious beliefs and things like that. How do you move past that sort of thing?
Right. So when we start to talk about these long-held beliefs that we've had since childhood, or even generations, of course, before then, we start to look at, okay, well, what does that start to say about what I might need to work on? If I'm so rooted in this one way of thinking and this one way of living, then what does that rob me of? Right?
What are you losing?
What do I
as
lose?
a result of it?
So it doesn't mean that I have to become like that person. We just really want to start understanding what it's like.
I imagine it's hard, and this, it all sounds great, of course, these kumbaya moments between people, but I imagine if someone is let's say you have two opposing forces, and someone is opening the door and being accepting and the other person is not, that's got to be almost equally frustrating and can almost lead to even more breakdowns if both people aren't on board with coming together.
That's so true.
So here is where, when you're talking about resolving conflict, this mutual understanding starts to come into play, and it's really important, because you want to be able to know what it is that you want, what it is that you need. Right? Because they're not the same thing. What I need is very different from what I want.
That's true.
Right? And so when the other person, say you're talking with someone and you're trying to build a bridge and they're just downright shut down, they're not going to connect with you, start to understand, or try to look to understand what it is that they need, what it is that they want. A lot of times people need to feel like they're not going to lose anything. So it doesn't mean that I have to give up who I am or what I believe in order to accept you. Right? And so you want to start looking at, okay, and I know what I need and want. And I know that well enough to be able to say, well, what do you need and want?
And is it about just asking that question? I mean, flat out just saying, what are you trying to get out of this? And at least that starts a dialogue. They can start something on their end.
Sometimes it really is that, candid. Like, what do you need? What is it that you are looking for from me? And then sometimes, it's, they'll say, I'm not looking for anything. I don't need anything from you. You go, okay. So what is it that you would like to continue to keep?
I like that.
Well, I would like to continue to keep my freedom. Freedom to do what, right? So you want to have a Socratic type of conversation with people and help them work through that process.
That is so challenging.
it's an art, but it can be done. And I have a book that people can get for free all day today.
And do you have in there workshops type stuff? Because here's the thing, and this is one of the things I love that our producers talked about this, is that you have some homework for us.
I do.
Things that we could do today, and that supported by what's in the ebook?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things that I want everybody to do is to take one situation, an easy one, okay, not anything too terribly challenging or emotionally stirring, but take a situation where it didn't go so well. Say people walked away very angry and say, well, what could I have done differently? Right? What did I need? What did I want? And then, what do I imagine they needed? What do I imagine they want? Right? And if you can't go much further than they want it to be right. I don't know. See if you can call that person and say, hey, I remember we had this falling out. And I want us to try to do that again. Can we get a do-over? And a lot of people, because it's not something that's emotionally stirring for you, they might say, okay. And you can try it. And the best place to start with is family and your friends, because they're always our guinea pigs, right?
They learn it.
But what a better place to start there, because I think sometimes if you have peace within your own life, it's much easier when you have conflicts with people you don't know, who you just have ideological, mental things with, because there's no investment in the relationship. It's just, two people who don't disagree. We so often walk away in those moments.
You do. And one of the things that family and friends do so well for us is that they allow us to make mistakes and come back and repair those mistakes, right? And make it right. So when we apologize, we want to acknowledge what we've done. We want to be able to let the person know how it impacted them. And we want to make it right. Every apology has to end with, how do we make it right? And sometimes making it right is, how do I learn? I might not fully accept where you are. I may not be there yet, but I'm moving in that direction. As long as people see movement, that's what matters. And if we can have that experience in our families or with our friends first, it allows us to be more comfortable continuing to try.
Will keep spreading across the world. Amen, Jinnie Cristerna.
And you mentioned, just really quick, you said call someone. I think we sometimes do it so much on our phones, on our texting.
That's not going to work.
Talk to somebody.
Yes. And one of the things that I do appreciate with a lot of my clients is that they have started to pick up the phone. It's actually faster, one. But then two, there's another human being on the other side of that. There's less room for misinterpretation. And emails and texts, we project our own fears. We project all kind of stuff into what they mean. Period is missing. Period is not there. What we do too much of that. So when people pick up the phone, it's something that allows them to say, okay. You're more likely to say okay.
Okay, love all of this, especially on this day. And again, you can find Jinnie's ebook. It's a comprehensive guide to conflict resolution. It's right now on Amazon, totally free today. And you can also learn all about her specialties. And if you want to work one-on-one with her or have some of her services at highachiever.net. Have a wonderful King Day. Thank you so much for that. Love that message.